So in this video, I'm going to talk about skeptics. Now, skeptics from a business standpoint, people who, um, when you show your product or when you show your company idea or concept, you know, you share it with the world, then there's always going to be people who don't quite believe what you're saying, or they have too many questions, sometimes, and they think you're being naive when you have an innovative solution. They don't think it's actually going to work. Um, at first glance, because sometimes you make a big claim, and if they've never seen something like that before, then they tend to just tell you like, oh, that seems naive, like, how are you going to do that, how does that work, how does this work, how are you going to solve this problem and that problem and whatever, right? And so as an entrepreneur, I've had to deal with that on a very regular basis, because our company has a fairly innovative, never seen before kind of product, and we make pretty big claims. It's like, before you use ChatGPT or any GPT, right? And if I told you what GPT can do, then you would be like, whoa, get out of here, like, there's just no way. Like, how does that work? How does this work? Whatever, right? So it's the same with some products. And so here's what I found about how to engage with, or how to deal with skeptics, right? Now, often the first, there's, depending on your level of self esteem and the level of your attitude in terms of saying fuck you to people or whatever, you might either be totally get into like defensive mode, like, oh no, here's how we, like, you start talking too much, basically. That's one approach, and I've made all these mistakes that I'm going to talk about, before in the past, where either you take a very defensive, weak stance, where you try to keep explaining and keep explaining and keep explaining and keep, you know, being, allowing the other person to have control and be below them in the conversation, and they're never going to believe you because the power dynamic is not in your favor at all, right? You can't, they just won't even open their minds. The other extreme is when you just say, hey, you don't believe it, whatever, fine, it, fuck you, whatever, I don't care, right? Move on to the next person. Just playing the numbers game. Okay, you don't like it, move on to the next person. You don't like it, move on to the next person. And the third way is where you find the right balance between, of course, you want to engage with skeptics, but not so much. Like, there's a certain threshold, a certain point where you decide, hey, okay, fine, looks like it's not for you. I'm just going to go and find people who would actually be interested. And sometimes you have to do that, Not everybody's going to be interested or, find everything you do useful, right? So at some point, you do have to say, hey, okay, it seems it's not for you. I'll move on and I'll respect your time. I'll just retreat from your inbox or whatever, right? Now, how to decide if it's the right moment for that kind of a reaction or not? And how do you keep, explaining while having a neutral power dynamic? And what I found is that if there's a skeptic who is engaging with you, asking questions, and not being, and they might sound dismissive and harsh, but they're engaging with you, they're curious, it's not like they're not even curious, they're like just too skeptical, and they're just not even interested in hearing anything, they're not even interested in asking questions, right? If somebody's asking too many questions, that's actually usually a good sign, even if they sound harsh. And I've had so many people who at first they were really harsh, they were really like, they even called me names in a, in some sense, that I sound foolish or whatever, but they were engaging, they were asking me real questions, um, and it was just my impatience that was that was making me feel like, fuck this person, whatever. In that case, here's what you want to do. um, you want to pull the conversation into your turf. So, for example, if they say, if they're suddenly asking you weird questions that you don't want to answer, you want to refocus the conversation into what do you want to convey to them? Like, hey, for example, let's say so recently this happened, right? I was I told somebody about our concept, and this person went to the website and saw the about page and stuff, and they made a conclusion that, oh, you're being too naive, it's too good to be true, whatever, it seems like a miracle, and you're not telling me how it's done, whatever, yada yada yada, right? And my reaction was, hey, okay, you have all these questions, and that's fine, but here's what I'm looking for in terms of feedback, and so let's focus on this part. Okay, let's forget about all the other things. Let's focus on this part first. And we have a call scheduled. I'm really excited to show you on the call or whatever. Or here's a video demo or whatever. Here's a presentation that answers that particular question. Because here's the thing: when you're engaging with a skeptic, you're engaging with them because you want something from them, right? You want them to either support you in some way, you want them to buy something, right? You want them to you want a certain transaction of sorts, and it doesn't have to be money. It could just be you want them to believe X, and you don't care if they don't believe everything apart from X, but you just want them to believe X, right? If they believe X, then you got your job done, and then you have a starting point. So you want to keep refocusing the conversation around X, and then say, okay, what? How can I get this person to believe in X? What can I do? Do I have to get them on a call? Do I have to show them a video? Do I have to show them a presentation? That's where you want to put your foot down and be like, hey, you know, can we focus on X, and then we can talk about the rest, right? If you're not willing to understand X first or talk about X first, then I guess it's not a good conversation for, like, you just say, okay, not working out. Let me move on to somebody else. That's when you cut ties with that, cut contact, and just keep going. Um, yeah, if a person is, you know, so that's kind of what I've found as a framework. You do have to sometimes say to people that, hey, you know, um, so like, for example, recently I emailed a really influential person, very famous person, and this person was one of the founders of a really famous magazine in technology, right? And I sent him a really nice email, and his response to me was, hey, okay, this sounds really promising, but contact me 1 year later after you're further along. Okay. Now I was like, okay, wait, weird, interesting. So I didn't tell him how far along we already are. So he's kind of making an assumption about how far along we are based on how big the mission seems in the like I said, the promise seems big for our company, and so people assume that it's you're probably long ways off. Like, it's like you saying we're building chat GPT, and they'd be like, yeah, sure, let me know when you get there in 5 years, whatever, right? You're like, no, we already have chat GPT, you can use the product, right? You can use the demo. Then people are like, whoa, okay, interesting, I did not expect that. So there I pushed back. I said, hey, it seems I made it sound like we are earlier stage than we actually are. We're actually much further along. And here's a video demo I've made. It's if you take a few minutes of your time to watch it, and you'll get a sense of what we've already accomplished so far, and then we can talk further, right? So there I pushed back, but gently, of course. And you have to do that. Sometimes I've told people like, hey, okay, looks like I'm gonna have to retreat for now. It seems I really don't have anything that you would find interesting. And then later on, I come back to them saying, hey, okay, it seems like uh, it's hard. It was really hard to explain over text. So I understand your skepticism, but here's a video or here's a presentation that you could go through, and I hope it answers all your questions that you had before. Um, Anyway, but yeah, the overall summary is that the key point is that Skeptics are a good thing. Skeptics mean that you're onto something if you actually have something valuable, like, uh, skeptics are great, and skeptics can also become your biggest supporters down the line if you engage with them confidently and kindly and with an open mind, and don't let them walk over you, right? You want to be gentle, but you want to be firm as to, hey, let's keep the conversation in the direction where about why I'm engaging with you in the first place, right? If you're engaging with a person for a certain reason and they're giving you a hard time about things that you don't really care about, like, wait, if somebody's like, let's say for example, there was this one time when there was this professor, okay, Harvard professor, and we and I got we had a call to show him what we were working on, and he started asking, and I just thought, like, I just wanted to get his thoughts on like some certain aspects of what we were doing, and like maybe get him to join a micro conference that we were doing. And he started giving me a hard time about the business model for the company. Like, you have to find a business model, how do you make money, this can't be your full-time job, like basically, I mean, he meant well, but like whatever, right? And he started saying like, "Oh, um, I don't have much time. I have other things to do. I only have 20 minutes." Like, yeah, whatever power dynamics he was pushing on the conversation. And now, okay, this guy is asking me about the business model, and like not asking me, but like condescendingly telling me that I need a good business model because I hadn't even talked about the business model, right? And there I had to like basically say in a way like, hey, I mean, I didn't say it, but like I was thinking sometimes like the weak thing there to do is you start talking about the business model, but the tough thing, the real thing you should do as a CEO especially, is that you say, hey, I'm not asking you for an investment. I'm not asking you to join the company. You're not putting up any money or any time whatsoever into the financials of how this company is funded or how we're making money or whatever. So what our business model is should be irrelevant to you, right? Here's the only thing I'm talking to you about. Like, here's the reason, like, here's my purpose for talking to you in the first place. Let's stick around that, right? I don't need your opinion on other things right now, but I'm not interested. You don't have to say that, but like, you have to be clear in your head why you're talking to this person, and that will give you the courage and the confidence and the clarity to engage with people in that situation. So anyway, that's what I've learned recently about skeptics. I know that we are going to find a lot more skeptics in the near future, but I've learned that by engaging with skeptics, if you can deliver the goods, then skeptics are a boon to you. Skeptics are you should be chasing down and finding as many skeptics as you can if you have the goods. And we do have the goods. Like, every single skeptic we have talked to, in a way, they ended up being kind of a convert, right? And then they become a huge advocate for the company, and like, whatever. So anyway, late night video recording. I just want to get something out really quickly, and yeah, that's the video.